Howdy folks, Little John. Do a bit of a 5 on Friday today. No brewing going on. We're in the middle of going towards the end of the second week of the ferment on the Loaded Dog Lager, which is at the moment sitting at the end of its diacetyl rest. Got a corn mash sitting on the go, and that's what's leading me into today's topic. Today's topic is what we'll talk about. It's just basically experimenting with your brews, just in general. Nothing specific, but looking into a few brews I'm looking at doing that have been based around, I said, this mash I did the other day. I'm enjoying myself a little bit of one of my early batches of bourbon I've made, using a UJSSM. I had some vanilla beans soaked in it. It's been sitting for probably 2 months or so now. See how it goes. Anyway, experimenting in brewing is nothing, it's not new, that's for sure. I mean, brewing's always been experimental. It's how it got to where it, where it is. But apart from that creation of things like styles that have been around really for a long time and smaller bit of development on them, there hadn't been a lot of change in the whole brewery thing for quite a while. That's changed in the last 7 to 10 years, sort of thing. It's possibly a little bit longer in the United States and America than it is here in Australia, where craft beer sort of took off a little bit earlier. The craft brewing industry has certainly brought a lot of change and a lot of experimentation into the whole brewing culture, right through from commercial breweries, big and small, from the biggest brewers right down to the smallest, and flowing on then in turn to home brewers, as we look to emulate and recreate beers that we try commercially. We're trying to make them in our own garages and sheds and laundries and wherever it is that we're brewing. And by and large, there's a lot of home brewers that are really into the science and the creation side of the beer. It's not just a case of just making something cheap and easy to save some money instead of having to buy commercial beer all the time. There's more and more people getting into it, as the whole artisanal culture is becoming wider and wider, and it's covering more scope and more product. More people are looking at venturing beyond the norms and stretching boundaries on pretty much everything. And what that's led to is people playing around with all sorts of things and creating new stuff. I mean, it led through a big rush on new styles in general. New England IPA, prime example, really playing around with the way that hops were being used. And even before that, the craft industry was really pushing on dry hopping and using hops in completely different ways than they'd been used in the past, or at the very least in a much more regular sense than they had been, and making it more common. Not totally changing, but certainly rethinking the way the hops are being used in beer, which, as I said, has led on to things like New England IPA, and flowing from it, session IPAs and extra pale ales, and that whole sector, particularly around the pale and the IPA, that sort of section has really stretched on how much variety there is in the processes and the resultant beer, right down to to recently with Brut IPA, which has really only been around now for, like, it's probably sort of just coming up on 2 years, I think, since it really hit the market. And the same thing, and then playing around with different options. Now, not everyone's a fan of or going to particularly like the new styles and the new way things are done, but there are people who do. So there's always a market out there for these sort of things. And I think, and a lot of it also from the modern generation, particularly the beer hipsters, really, but just people in general, we have so much access to information now than we ever had in the past. Everything's just at your fingertips. Just discussing this the other day with my boss at work. When I was young, trying to find information on something was a long and tedious and hard process. You're going to libraries and looking up, trying to find information, and going through book after book and indexes and directories, and trying to find links, trying to find a way to get information that you wanted to know. And it was very hard to get. Now, you just pick up your phone, you can Google absolutely anything, and in under half a second, you've got thousands of answers, of options, results. So the availability of doing things is just so much more right there at your fingertips. It's easy to get hold of and to play around with. So it's becoming just crazy. And one of the big things driving this whole change, I said, is this technology. If somebody tries an experimental brew of some kind, they put it on social media, they put it on Facebook, Instagram, they tweet about it, whatever it is, and it's getting passed around, and that's quite easy for that one localized sort of test or trial to be available to everyone around the world to look at. So these new things that are happening it's just exploding, and it's out there everywhere. 30 years ago, if you did something different, it could take years for that information even to get outside of your local area, for other people to even realise these things were going on. So trying to make these new things part of a culture was all but impossible. Where now it's just bang, bang, bang. It happens so quickly, and something can be done today, and millions of people know about it tomorrow. And that's just opening up so much scope for people to play around, and to have other people go, oh, that sounds like an interesting idea, and that seems to work, and this thing I tried worked really well, and other people are doing it, and suddenly there's hundreds and hundreds of brewers doing it, and then there's thousands. That stuff gets out there so much quicker than it ever did, even than what it did 3 or 4, 5 years ago. It's getting quicker all the time. More and more people are getting involved in the transfer and the sharing of knowledge and information. So that brings me back to where I was the other day after knocking out this corn mash for a bourbon. Now, just quickly for anyone who's never made spirits, never really looked at it, bourbon starts off with a grain mash similar to beer, as does Scotch. Any whiskey is a grain mash, and plenty of spirits in general are made from grain mashes of some kind. Scotch whiskey is essentially made from a beer mash. It's barley, malted barley, that just doesn't get hopped and changed. Bourbon, American whiskey, generally has a large proportion of corn. So this batch I was doing on Monday was 60% corn, and 20% barley, 20% rye. So it's certainly not in the realms of something you'd normally be looking at as a beer. But what happened, and I've thought about this several times doing these mashes in the past and going, oh, I wonder what that would be like. This batch, when I'd finished and I transferred it to the fermenter, I actually really sat and took a good taste of it. And it had a quality which I thought, hang on, I think this could really work in a beer. It's going to be very light, and it's got me thinking a little bit, especially around, like you look at things like Corona, and there's Mexican beers and there's a lot of corn in them. How much, I don't know how much it is, and I think the assumption is that there's still a whack of barley in there, a fair whack of barley with some corn to offset it. But it got me thinking, maybe it's time to do just a bit of experimenting myself, play around a little bit and do a corn beer. Now, what I was using mainly of that was polenta. I've used cracked corn on most of my bourbons, but this was experimenting with that distilling side. But I wanted to have a go at polenta for ease of doing that process. So what I'm going to do is a beer basically with 60% polenta, and the remainder will be barley. So it's going to be very similar to that mash I did for that bourbon. I don't think I'll have quite as much rye, but that's coming up. I'm going to be doing that in the next couple of weeks. It will only be a small batch, and I've got a couple other things that got set up before I can actually do that, but it will be coming in the next couple of weeks, and there will be videos on it. So you can keep an eye on that one. And the other thing that got me thinking was, I was cleaning out the kitchen cupboard just the other day, getting rid of a few older things, and I had this sitting in the cupboard. Now this is it's just muesli. Oats, barley, wheat, raisins, sultanas, that sort of thing, a few nuts. This is a box I bought last year when the son was having his wedding, and we're going to have everybody up here for breakfast the following morning. I bought a box of muesli just to have anybody who wanted muesli instead of, not everyone wants bacon and rolls. I don't know why, but some people. But anyway, turned out nobody wanted muesli, which didn't surprise me at all. But anyway. Sorry about that. Work call. So I said, so this has been sitting in the cupboard. It's unopened. It is out of date. It's got it best before, sort of end of January this year. But I thought, why not use that in a mash for a stout, or even just a dark beer in general, dark ale. Then just see what it does. Now, the thing that got me thinking on this is, quite often a lot of not all stouts, but some stouts will have those dried fruit flavours. But more so the darker pommy type ales, you know, a lot of the bitters. I'm thinking particularly of like of a hobgoblin, have quite pronounced, you know, dark fruit, dried fruit flavours. So I thought, surely it can't hurt to put these in the mash. So we're doing the same thing. I'm going to do a brew with that. I picked up another box today. I was just down the supermarket. It's a little bit different. It's got a few different berries, and it's got more fruit than actual cereal in it, but I'll go with those. So I'm going to come up with a recipe for those, and that will probably be a little bit further down the track. But that's me stepping into this more water. I mean, obviously I'm experimenting all the time, but it's with more traditional sort of methods and pushing some and looking at some of the newer methods, without going too crazy. This, to some degree, it's just stepping a little bit further aside and getting a little bit more outside the normal sort of a realm, without being ridiculously silly or anything like that. It still conforms to stuff that's, you know, not, you know, that's out there and sort of available to some degree. Chicha is a corn beer from South America. It's a traditional native beer. It's made with all corn. So corn beer is not unheard of. It's nothing new, but it's not something you see people doing very often. And I can't think of a commercial version certainly readily available, you know, here in Australia. So, so that's what I'm doing. It's going to try something a little bit different. I do small batches, so yeah, they do come out bloody nasty. I'm not throwing away too much beer. Knock them up simple, but might give some people some thought and some ideas on things they can do to push their limits a little bit. Who knows? Might create an absolutely fantastic beer. Might create the next big thing. Remains to be seen. So that's what's happening with Little John anyway in the near future for Brewventures. Yeah, some beer experimentations. So if you got any comments, any questions, stick it at the bottom. Yeah, what are you doing? What are you doing that's crazy, that's pushing the limits? What sort of, you know, weird beers or unusual ingredients are you using? You know, how did it go? Did it work? Did it not work? You know, did you make bloody, you know, nectar of the gods, or did you make absolute bloody rubbish that you had to throw out? Either way, let's have a chat. We'll have a chat about it. Why not? If you haven't subscribed to Little John, hit the button down there in the corner and subscribe. There's plenty to learn, there's plenty to see. We're always talking, brewing, drinking. Anyway, that's me for today, Little John. So, till I see you again, we're drinking beer, we're brewing beer, we're talking beer, good brewing.